What's going on, YouTube? This is the Cheshire Cat, otherwise known as Larry. Um, this is my first official video that I'm posting on this channel. So I'm a little bit unorganized, a little nervous about the whole thing, but I just figured I want to do an introductory of sorts, just to kind of give people a heads up of what the channel is going to be about and what type of things to look for. Because initially I wanted to do this big grandiose video, but I decided the best thing to do is an introduction. So as I stated before, I go by Cheshire Cat, both on YouTube and online. And I'm an artist by nature, not by trade yet, but that is what most of the channel will be focusing on, is on art in all forms of media, whether it be video games, anime, comic books, things of that nature. And just me kind of going over the aesthetics, the inspirations of these different character designs, and even showing off some of my own original characters. And being that this is my first video, I was a little nervous, so I reached out to a friend of mine who is also a YouTuber. He's a vetted YouTuber, I'd say. For those of you that do know him and recognize him, I have the Chris Lotus attending me as a kind of a moral support and a little backup to assist me with this introduction. How you doing, Chris?
Pretty good.
Okay. Well, like I said, this is more of an introduction, so I'll just kind of at least start by, telling you about myself. Like the Chris Lotus over here, I hail from a place known as Macon, Georgia, which may sound foreign to a lot of you that aren't from Georgia. But for those of you that are in Georgia, you're familiar, probably overly familiar with Macon. It's also known as Mactown, a little bit south of Atlanta. It's my home nonetheless. I've gotten into art when I was 14. So roughly around eighth grade, because I've always had that idea of, like, you watch your cartoons and stuff like that on the weekends, and I always had that idea of, what if I had done this? What would I have done differently? And that kind of spurred on me, getting into drawing, which at first it was just me just drawing things that already existed, or just looking at a picture and drawing that picture. And then it slowly evolved into me making up my own characters and coming up with all these different stories and whatnot. And looking back on it, because like I said, I started when I was 14. I'm 31 now. So it's been a long time. Over the journey, I've had a lot of ups and downs. And, looking back on some of my old stuff, you kind of have that almost visceral reaction to some of your old stuff if you're an artist, where it's like, ugh, that's, but I'm proud of how far I've come, and I can't wait to progress with you and hopefully receive some criticism to make myself better. And hopefully I can spread what I've learned to YouTube, and help somebody else start their journey or improve on their journey that they've already started. I am currently working on a story. It is unnamed, and I won't get into a lot of details. But Lotus, I've shown you a few of these characters, these original characters I've made over time.
Yeah.
And one of them, at least because this isn't one of my main characters, but the early inception of the character, two characters actually, Naomi and Liam. With Naomi and Liam, when I originally came up with them, they were kind of inspired loosely by just the idea of, you've seen a lot of shows where there are two characters where you know they're going to end up together, or if they're already together, that is like the ideal couple in the universe of that show. That was the idea initially when I created Naomi and Liam, and then it kind of got substantially darker as I went along because of the nature of my story. Because there are two things I love as an artist: anime and H.P. Lovecraft, even though that's ironic because I am a black man. But one thing that came across my head when I created Naomi and Liam was, what if there were Lovecraftian musicians? Because the whole idea of Lovecraft are these inconceivable, unknowable horrors that even you attempting to learn about these things can drive you mad. So I was like, what if I took that concept and kind of branched it off into music, or people that spread that same sensation through music? And with Naomi and Liam, like the very first picture I did of them was more innocent, for lack of a better term. It was essentially Naomi and Liam falling, and there's like a whole portal gimmick because Naomi has teleportation powers effectively. But as I kind of developed the characters and fleshed out what I wanted them to be and who I wanted them to be, I went down this darker avenue of them being Lovecraftian musicians, and with them effectively, being mind boggled by all this chaos and this evil that's presenting itself in their minds and how it affects their music over time. So if you can imagine, say, and I'm using this purely for example, like a Taylor Swift, for instance, and slowly but surely starts going insane, starts getting affected by this madness, and her music goes from what you would traditionally think Taylor Swift sounds to, say, Ginger, which for those of you that don't know, that's metal. Good music. Ginger is a very good metal band. Y'all should check it out. But yeah, that is effectively kind of the journey, or a part of the journey that I wanted to represent with these two characters, because the characters themselves are musicians. Naomi's a singer and Liam is a guitarist. I would probably liken him to like a Santana or a John Mayer as far as his light skills with the guitar. And Naomi, I would kind of liken to, say, a Jhené Aiko. And as these events happen to them, because they effectively get possessed by Lovecraftian entities, it starts affecting their psyche and their music. Just bit by bit, it starts kind of trickling down into darker territory, whether it be the subject matter or the tone, like musical tone of the notes and whatnot, start to get darker. Then they transition into, in the case of Naomi, I say she had like a Jhené Aiko kind of sound to her, where she would go from that, maybe start singing about things that are a little bit darker in nature, but still sweet sounding. Almost like, what's the song, SZA? Kill Bill. I just killed my ex. That. So it kind of slowly kind of goes down slope into that darkness in subject matter. But then it just starts derailing into more odd sounding things, and eventually kind of goes into this chaotic metal sound that they ended up creating together. But those are two of the characters that I've created, because like I said in the original picture, it's, kind of bubbly, bright, fun, for lack of a better term. And as I started redesigning them to try to get more towards what I thought their definitive designs were, it got a little bit darker. Like with this picture with Naomi, for instance, you see her hopping through a portal, and if you look at her hair kind of seems like it's made out of tentacles, kind of on like a Medusa-esque imagery to invoke those visual aspects. And you see these two creatures coming out the portal with her, which that's another aspect of her character, is summoning basically Lovecraftian creatures that she makes look like animals, as to keep the sanity of onlookers from going sideways. So in the case of this picture, these two hyenas are, these horrifying Lovecraftian creatures, but she makes them look like that so that random bystanders don't see the creature and then, lose their minds. And even with Liam, like I said in the original picture, he kind of, just typical redhead looking kid, has his little outfit on and whatnot. And then in this picture, he is more, off the deep end. You see this pair of hands in the background making like a symbol with the hands. Within context, without going too deep, it's basically a very malevolent entity that's bonded itself with him, more or less an elder god that's hosting in his body. And it's slowly driving him insane, because you see I've added these scratches on his arms, on his chest and back. I tried to go with like this straitjacket design to where he's, been admitted and he went crazy, and he ends up, breaking out and whatnot. So he just wears the straitjacket like around his waist, and, he has the sunken eyes and even a literal third eye on his forehead. And he even has this kind of horn protruding out of his head. That's a part of like this whole transformation between him and this entity that he's hosting to. But to go a little bit off topic, like I said, I've talked about those two characters. In all honesty, I do enjoy this a lot, art that is. fairly new to the YouTube thing. If you dive back into my channel, you might see some old Smite clips or some MK or Guilty Gear or something like that. Because at the time, they didn't have the PlayStation app, so that was like my only way to like save those clips and show them to people. But I do have a love for art in all forms, whether it be characters in fighting games, anime, other video games, TV shows, comic books, you name it. And with that being said, I'm also working with Mr. Lotus here on a side project, so to speak, a fan fiction, if you will, for King of Fighters. And it revolves around the bringing back of a non-canon character, Nameless, into the canon in the fictional, but hopefully not for long, King of Fighters 16. Would you like to kind of delve into that a little bit, Lotus?
Sure, why not? So, this was literally just an idea that randomly came in my head some years ago. And I have to go back a little bit, possibly, but I know I put a poll on my channel. Like, basically giving the audience the choice to vote on what video they'd like to see next. And I just happened to have the idea of, let me try to pitch a storyline to where Nameless becomes a canon character in KOF. And a lot of people actually like that idea. I think that particular idea probably got the most votes. But at the time, I didn't have the means to at least make it good. At least in my opinion, I might have been a little bit of a perfectionist with the stuff. And it's so crazy that it went from just pitching a storyline to now, like, CheshireKat here wants to, of course, add like comic panels to it, which I'm actually more of a fan of. Not to mention, of course, with certain things in the fanfic, of course, is going to require some artwork on top of that. And then on top of that, even, it's even extended to us getting voice actors for this. So it's like pretty much morphed into like a little idea into almost like a whole production. So that's basically the gist of it without getting too much into the story. If you want to get into like a rough draft of the story, we recorded a podcast almost a week ago, and we kind of go through a rough draft of it. There's still changes that'll possibly happen. As a matter of fact, there have already been some changes.
Major changes.
Yeah, some major. I would say they were major, yeah. So that's basically the long and short of that.
Yeah, so in the future, whether it be near or distant, y'all check out this King of Fighters fanfic that we'll be posting. The actual comic book-ified story will be going up on my channel.
Didn't you mention that you want to do like some character breakdowns for... I didn't want to reveal it, but I mean, it is what it is. Because we created some characters for this.
Yes. We created 3, now 4, but that's neither here nor there, original characters for this King of Fighters fan fiction. And me and Lotus here, we went back and forth, bouncing ideas off each other, ironing out the details, which, funny enough, I went back through the messenger chat between you and me, and I forgot how many iterations of each character I drew up before we settled on what we have now.
That's how the process goes.
Like, because I love that process. I've told this to Chris here several times, like in the past, like 4 days. I love the process of brainstorming and coming up with characters and lore and just ironing out the details to finally get this polished product. I love that process, and I love creating characters, and I love that what I do assists me in this process that me and Lotus are going on together. So it's gonna be a fun time. Definitely, I will definitely keep y'all posted when this story drops, because it will be a doozy. But for now, I would say I will be signing off. For now, I'll be posting again next week, and I will catch you all later. Peace.